All right, there we go. All right, everybody. I think a couple more may be joining us, but I'm not sure. But I'm recording this, and hopefully, the way Brady and I are going to work this out is that if you miss a class, you will be able to. He's going to send you an email with the link to the recording, so you'll have the recording there then for you. We had to save it on the cloud and everything like that. All right, Joe, were you able to get a book?
Yeah, you gave me one.
I gave you that book. Okay. Chase, were you and Lauren able to get a book? Okay. Lauren, you can answer for him. He's eating.
I'm snacking over here too.
Oh, go ahead. All right. That's good.
Yep.
All right. All right, guys. Well, welcome.
She's
Welcome
in
to the
class.
first class. And please be patient. My right hand person, Brady, is not able to be here, and she was going to do the whole Zoom thing. So she gave me a crash course yesterday. So if for some crazy reason this class just ends suddenly, then it's over. And we'll try again next time. All right. Um, let's open with a word of prayer. Father in heaven, thank you so much for this opportunity to study the language in which you ordained that your New Testament would be written in. And Father, we just ask and pray that you would use this unto edification in our lives. You know our hearts, Father. We really just want to know your word better. We want to see it more clearly. We want to be more careful and accurate with your word. We want to be able to understand it in a greater depth, and we also want to be able to discern when it's being misused. And so, Father, all of that will come as we learn this language. And so, bless and be with us now, we pray. Use this time for your glory and honor, we ask. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Mhm.
All right, guys. You picked this hour, which is great. I mean, that's no problem. Except that next week we have an elders meeting during from starting at 5 o'clock. So what I've decided to do is basically give 2 weeks worth of work, and then I am going to be away in Virginia for the next 2 weeks after that. But I'm planning on having the class from there because my daughter will have internet and we should be fine. And this isn't going to be a lot of hard work for me, to be honest with you, to prepare this class and such. I'm really excited about it, and I hope that I can make Greek a good thing for you. All right. I'm supposed to bring it here, but the only other book that I want us to have, I'm going to be giving you handouts. We're going to do this through Brady. She's going to be giving you some handouts and some things. But the only other book that I want us to be involved with is the Greek New Testament. And I have recently found, so I really was trying to find an inexpensive Greek New Testament for you to get started with, because some people may find that this isn't for them or something like that. So I actually just found one. I just got it today. It's available for $9. It's just a Greek New Testament. There's no notes, no anything else. It's quite frankly, I like that. It's like it just came off the Apostle Paul's pen. And so I'll get you a link for one of those, because I want to direct us to the New Testament as much as possible, because I think that makes learning Greek a lot more interesting. And so I'm going to even try to tie some things in today. Okay. Um, I wanted to give you a few pointers on learning a language, but especially in learning Greek, and some things that might help you and make it less daunting. And what I'd really like to encourage you is don't get nervous about this. Don't make it too big, okay? It's actually not hard to learn a language. It just takes some time to memorize and things like that. And once, especially learning New Testament Greek, Koine Greek, once you start getting into the New Testament and start working on it, at first you'll feel like you don't have much vocabulary and it's all coming at you. But if you take your time, say take a verse, and you take that verse apart and you start, I'm going to teach you how to outline a verse in such a way that the prepositional phrases will describe what the verb is saying. And once it starts coming alive to you, I think that you're going to find it to be so much fun that the more time that you spend in it, the more it's just going to seem normal to you. Okay. And so that's my goal for the class. All right. Um, you can tell that Molly Whitaker's book here has 45 chapters. Okay, so if we do a chapter a week, that's that's a year. But way before we get to um, in fact, I'm looking at the table of contents right now. Way before we get to that, we'll have you doing sentences in the New Testament. Way before that, okay? Some of the final chapters are just very specific in that. Okay. I chose Molly Whitaker's book because I went through 4 or 5 different books, and some that I've already taught before and others. And I keep coming back to Molly Whitaker. I just find like she's the best because this is just straightforward Greek. It's not a bunch of some books go into so much detail that it overwhelms. This is straightforward Greek. She just takes you through. And quite frankly, this is the book that I learned on. In fact, this is my book. It's all ripped up. I had to finally put it into a notebook, tear the whole thing apart. This book is literally 42 years old. And if this would be an encouragement to you, I was a much younger man then. I actually took the course in 8 weeks. I had to learn this book in 8 weeks. Okay, so we did a chapter every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We did a chapter. We had an exam, and in 8 weeks, I learned Greek and spent the rest of my life studying it. But all that's to say is you can do this. And secondly, you will find that the more you start just exercising your brain in memorization, the more easier it'll start to be, and you'll start to absorb. And the more you start to feel comfortable in the Greek language, the more you'll start absorbing a lot more quickly. Okay. So let me just give you some heads up on the best way to do this, and that is do not spend an extended amount of time each day in the Greek. Okay. Most of what you're going to be doing is memorizing vocabulary at this point and endings, and it's better for your brain. It's better to learn a language if rather than spend a half-hour a day, spend 2 15-minute or even 3 10-minute sections, morning, afternoon, evening. Because if you keep working your brain with this stuff, it'll get numb. It won't work. You're wasting your time. So take a little bit of time, learn something. You may find that it's much easier just to make some little cards. They actually, excuse me, they actually sell language learning cards. Now, this is the day of the internet, and some of you are young, and you'll figure out other ways of doing this. But we had these little cards like this with the English on one side, the Greek on the other side. We stamped holes in them, and we had little rings, and we put them on there, and boom, 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 boom. We were going through them. But whatever works for you, I'm sure there are things. There's apps on phones. There's all kinds of stuff out there now, and that. But please don't overwhelm your brain. Do short sections through the day. Take your cards with you when you're on the road. Put a note card in front of you when take one in your pocket, pull it out, learn a few. Just keep familiarizing yourself with it, and that'll work good. When you're learning Greek, one of the nice things about Greek is that you are going to connect the word with English words. It's going to happen. And anytime I do that, for me, anytime I do that, I learn the word better. So let's take a first stab here at sharing my screen. Okay. See if I can do this. Can you see that screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And this is I just made this up today just to show you how you can make just how you can make the language, make connections and then understand the language. For instance, is my arrow show up?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so cardia is the Greek word. This is cardia. we're going to learn in just a few minutes here. That's a rho. It looks like a P, but it's a rho. So every time you see that, you're going to say R. But this is the word cardia, and obviously that's the word heart, from which we get cardiology and all that kind of stuff. And so memorizing cardia should be very simple, okay, for you when you see that word. This is the word autos, and autos is it's almost everywhere in the Greek New Testament. But autos is the Greek for self. And again, we get autobiography. I may have written that wrong, but we get autobiography. Autoimmune, autobiography is a biography that a person writes about themselves. Autoimmune is a disease in which yourself is attacking your immune system. And then autonomy is law. Excuse me, autonomy is a law unto yourself. So when you see autos, it helps you to memorize it. Here's a fun one. Amarantas, amarantas, amarantas. And there's your rho again, amarantas. And the word means unfading, unfading. And it comes from, and we actually have amaranth, which is a flower. And I'm going to show you an amaranth here as soon as I get off this screen. I'm not so good to switching back and forth, so let's just try this. Amaranth is a flower that doesn't fade, okay? And so in First Peter, the word is used. It says, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and does not fade away. And there's amarantas, reserved in heaven for you. And he also used the word again in a slightly different form in First Peter 5:4. And when the chief shepherd appears, he's talking to the elders here, you will receive the crown of glory that does not fade away. And there he used a form of that word as well. And that's amarantas, okay? And that word is, and so here's amaranth, okay? I actually grow it in my garden every year, and this was picked this fall, and notice that the flower is as purple as it was the day that I picked it. And I dry it. This is actually hanging in my office right here because I love it so much, and it reminds me of that. So again, I see the Greek word amarantas, I immediately think of that flower. And that's the way that you learn the language, okay? I would also really encourage you to say the words out loud when you can, say the words out loud as you're reading them. Because when you do that, then you're seeing the word, you're hearing the word, you're also articulating the word, and it's going to help you in your memorization. And so your friends around you, standing around you, I think you're going to kind of be crazy, but you're going to be rattling off these words as you learn them, okay? Now, the goal here is to learn a language, to learn Greek. And I just want to give you a little something that I think is I found to be extremely helpful to me. And this comes out of a friend of mine who was my Greek teacher and then became a friend for 40 years, wrote a book. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna refer to this book often. His name is Rod Whitaker, and he's not related to Molly Whitaker, but anyway, he wrote a book on reading Greek, and I wanted to just read this to you. Do you see my quote here on your screen?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm going to start here. Note that such reading, this is from his book on how to learn how to read Greek fluently, okay? And he says this, note that such reading is not the same as translation. Reading is gathering the content of a passage straight from the Greek without turning it into English. C.S. Lewis has an apt description of the difference. Those in whom the Greek word lives only while they are hunting for it in the lexicon, and who then substitute the English word for it, are not reading the Greek at all. They are only solving a puzzle. The very formula nous, and there's the Greek for now. The V is actually a nu. That's an N in Greek. That's pronounced nous. The nous means a ship. And again, look at the Greek word nous. That word is where we get nautical and all kinds of things having to do. That would be helpful to memorize that word. And so he says this, nous means a ship is wrong. Nous and ship both mean a thing. They do not mean one another. Behind nous, as behind Navus and Naka, those are Latin, we want to have a picture of a dark, slender mass with sails or oars climbing the ridges with no officious English word intruding. I hope you understand what he's saying here. What he's saying here is that as you seek to learn Greek, now not at the beginning, you're going to have Greek on one side and English on the other side. That's cool. But eventually you're going to want to get to the point that you stop translating the Greek into English and you start reading it as Greek. And so just make that a goal for you as you're studying these things. Try to learn the language as it's coming at you. Okay? Any questions or any thoughts about that? Okay, good. If you have your book with you, open it up while I grab a cough drop. And we're going to go here to the very beginning of the book, and we're going to talk about the Greek alphabet. And so page 9 is where you want to be. And there we have the alphabet. Now, at this point, I want to encourage you to not worry about the capital letters, okay? Don't worry about them. Be aware of them. You know, give them a little browse, but don't worry about them because your entire Greek New Testament is going to be there's going to be very few capital letters, okay? There may be some at the title pages at the top and that, but Greek was pretty much all written in lowercase letters. And so that's where you're going to live. You'll eventually pick up the capital letters as you get on. You'll see it at the beginning of a name, but other than that, don't worry about the capital letters. So you want to look at the small case letters. What I want to go down through here now is I want to go down and just explain the letters and explain the pronunciation because that's what she has there. Molly Whitaker has. She gives us some helpful hints with the pronunciation. And I want us to work together on pronunciation. So next time we meet, we will look at some of the exercises and I'll have you in the class, various people, reading the exercises so that we hear the language and we get comfortable with the language, okay? So let's go down through it. It's kind of cool because this is the alphabet, and obviously in the Greek language, the first two letters are alpha and beta, and that's where the word alphabet comes from. We sometimes say the ABCs, but then we use the word alphabet. It comes from the alpha beta. And so you'll see the middle column there is the lowercase letters. Those are the ones you want to focus on. Alpha, that's pretty easy. It's the English letter A, and it can be both long and short. So it can be like the in father or the short at or in bat. Alpha, I usually pronounce it but you'll see there are going to be some times when you won't. But when you read alpha, it's Beta is B. That's easy. Gamma is G. It's the hard G, as in get. Gamma is G. Then you have epsilon, which is the short E, as in let. Epsilon, when you see epsilon. Now, the next letter is a zeta, zeta. And it actually is pronounced DS, zeta, zeta. And like in the end of Lords, so zeta, you'll get that, you'll want to get that D sound in it. Don't pronounce it like a Z. You'll pronounce it like a DZ almost, or a DS, zeta, all right? And then the next one is eta. And eta is the long A sound, eta. Now, they do this weird thing where they put the long E there, but it actually is a long A as in late. So forget that long E. The eta is a long A, okay? And it's a very important word. You'll notice, and we're going to talk about how to write these here in just a few minutes. Theta, you should be familiar with that. Theos, God, is theta. You can see that the lowercase and the uppercase are almost the same, and so it's very easy to remember the uppercase with that one. The next one is iota, which is R-I, but it is pronounced E, as in C. Sometimes it can be short, as in bit, but normally it's E. It's an iota, and normally it has that E sound, okay? Kappa is a hard K or C. Kappa. Then lambda is an L. Mu, M. Nu, N. And then Kasi, almost KS, Kasi, is the X sound, okay? Then there's actually two O's, all right? So there's Omicron, which is the short O sound. And then if you look all the way down at the bottom, there's Omega, which is the long O sound, as in bone, okay? So there's Omicron, and then there's Omega. So we have Omicron, Pi, which you know is P, and then what looks like a P is Rho, and that's the R sound. And there are also two sigmas. You see the first one there, and then the second one. The difference is that the first one, the first sigma, that appears within a word. The last sigma appears at the end of a word. Okay? They don't ever use that first one there at the end of the word. They only use the second one. Okay? Then tau, T, upsilon, U. It has the kind of the sound like in hub, upsilon. Then phi, PH, physics. Chi, a hard CH, like in chaos or lock. That's what a chi is. Christos is begins with the chi. And then psi, it's a PS sound coming together like in cyclops. It's a psi, and then finally omega. So those are the letters and what they kind of sound like. Any questions about that? It's just a matter of learning them. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota. That's just keep learning them, keep messing with them. It'll come. All right. All right. Let's turn to page 10. Page 10. These are called diphthongs, and they're actually extremely important. Diphthongs, and they're two words that sound together. Two vowels that are pronounced together as one long vowel. We have them in English. They're very common in Greek, and again, you just need to memorize them. And so that and this will come too as we start reading the words. But alpha iota is I as in isle. So when you see that, you see I, it's isle. Epsilon iota is A as in nay. All right. Omicron iota is oi as in oil. And alpha upsilon is ow as in prow. Now you may have remembered when I showed it earlier, I did autos, alpha upsilon tau omicron sigma, autos, and I pronounced it like the prow, autos, okay? And then omicron upsilon is oo as in moose, oo, and then epsilon upsilon and eta upsilon both kind of have the similar sound as of the U, like in euthanasia, okay? And then upsilon iota is we, as in quit, wit. That's what you'll get that sound. Huios is son, or something like that in Greek, okay? So those are diphthongs. Just memorize them, get used to that sound, and turn back to this if you start seeing words and you want to kind of work on your pronunciation. This will become so second nature that you won't even think about it, okay? Then I wanted to talk about breathings and the iota subscript. You will find at the beginning of a Greek word that it's going to either have a rough breathing sound, and you'll see that here. In fact, I'll just read what she says here. A breathing rough, and that's the sort of mark for an aspirate, and smooth for an unaspirated is always found in front of a capital vowel. So there she's given you a word, and it's Herodes. It's the name Herod. But you notice that in front of that eta is this h sound, because that's how that's supposed to be sounding. So so that's for instance, if you turn back to page 9 and you look under eta, see eta is actually, it looks like an H, but that's why this wasn't a good example for her to give for a rough breathing. But it actually is the letter is eta, which is like A. So, but when you say that, Arodes, what you would, because of the rough breathing there, you say Herodes, okay, or Herodes. That brings in that H sound, because they don't have an H in Greek, okay? And then over this, and then also over a small initial vowel. If the vowel is at the beginning of a word, you're going to see a breathing sign. So that first word there is angelos, okay, angel, angelos. But notice that the breathing there is unaspirated. It's not hangelos, it's angelos. But the next word is ora, but it's hora, and that's the word hour, okay? And so it's an omicron rho alpha, and so it's ora, but it's aspirated, hora. So just get used to seeing that little dash for either aspirated or unaspirated, and you'll see that there, okay? It says that the second vowel in an initial diphthong. So if a word begins with a diphthong, then you'll have the whether it's aspirated or not before it. So that first word is Aeneas, which is the name of a person who was healed in Acts 9. Aeneas, but it's smooth breathing. It's not rough breathing. But the next one is Heurisco, and it's rough breathing. So I'm pronouncing it Heurisco. Okay. And that's the word that's how it's aspirated, heurisco. I find, eureka. That's where that word comes from. That's what the word means. Heurisco means to find. I find, okay? And then he finally says an initial rho is usually aspirated. And so you have this word, that's an R, eta, a, tau. And so you have this word, but it's aspirated, hooray. Heretorike. Maybe you have a guess for that is? Heretorike. It's rhetoric, okay? And we actually have an RH when we write rhetoric, okay? So whether the breathing is rough or smooth is an essential part of the word, and you'll run into this, okay? Finally, what's called an iota subscript. No big deal right now, but you're going to see a small little iota written under an alpha, eta, or omega, and it is no longer pronounced, okay? But it is an integral element and part of the ancient diphthong and must be inserted. So you're going to see some of that as well. You can read about accents, but don't worry about accents right now. I'm going to give you a much more, I feel like she made it too complicated. There's some other people that make it a lot more simpler, and we'll talk about accents, okay? So what I would encourage you to do is learn the alphabet, be familiar with it, learn it in order, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta. So if you see a kappa, you can say theta, iota, kappa, lambda, and know it in place. Learn the alphabet and learn the diphthongs. And let me encourage you, if you do that, you will be able to use a Greek lexicon. You'll be able to look up any word in Greek in a lexicon, and you'll be able to pronounce it, okay? So suddenly, Bible Hub's lexicon suddenly just opened up to you, and you'll be able to see a word, and you'll be able to find a word in a lexicon, and because you'll know the alphabet, you'll be able to open up a lexicon, and you'll be able to find a word. So honestly, you just take this class and you quit now, you're still way ahead, okay? You're doing good, okay? So that's the alphabet. Diphthongs, just be aware of breathings. I'll point them out, and iota subscripts. Okay? Any thoughts, questions, anything? I know it's simple. It's just the alphabet. Come on, Todd. This is simple. And it is. You'll be good at it. This will be easy. All right, let's turn then to page 11. This is the first chapter. All right? And this is why we have 2 weeks, and so you can take you'll take your time on this one, on that. But I'll explain. This is how we're going to function. I'm going to explain the chapter, and then you will go back and reread it, and then do the memorization, and then do the exercises, because there's exercises at the end of each chapter. Okay, so let's begin this chapter, and we're going to basically I'm going to try to do a chapter a week. That's what we're going to try to do, chapter a week, okay? So this chapter, chapter 1, is the present indicative active of luo. See the word there, luo. It's lambda, upsilon, omega, luo, all right? And every single person that has ever learned Koine Greek has learned it based on luo, okay? Everything you learn is going to be this word luo. And the reason is because luo is completely regular. There's no irregularities to it at all, and such. So everybody knows what luo is. Okay. So what you need to understand about Greek as opposed to English is that the words have endings, and these endings show who the person is that is speaking. We don't do this, okay? So our language, luo means to loose, to let go, to unleash, or something like that. In fact, it's interesting, Dan, you probably didn't pick up on this, maybe, I don't know. But in John 5:18, when the Pharisees are criticizing Jesus, they use the word luo. They say he is loosing the Sabbath. He's loosing the Sabbath by letting that guy carry the mat. And that's the use of the word luo, okay? Now, luo, we're being given here, is a present, indicative, active. Now, let me explain what those are. Present is the tense, okay? Present is the tense. And so we're familiar with tense in English. Present tense, past tense, future tense. We're familiar with those. In Greek, you're going to have those and more. Greek is going to be a much more specific language than English, and that's the beauty of it. But right now, we're beginning with the present tense. And indicative is what's called the mood, the mood. And in Greek, there's several moods, in English as well, but it's not as clear as it is in Greek. There's the indicative mood, subjunctive mood. Another mood that you would be aware of is the imperative. The imperative is a command. Do this, do that. That's an imperative mood, okay? A present command is do this now. You do this. An indicative is just simply a statement. It's just a statement. That's what an indicative is. And so this is a present indicative. Loose. Go. I loose. He looses. She looses. I'm just saying a fact, an indicative. And then the third thing there is voice. It's an active voice. And in Greek, we're going to learn various other voices eventually. Active voice, middle voice, which we do not have in English, and that's a really cool one in Greek. And then passive voice, okay? So, in an active voice, I hit something, the baseball. In passive, I was hit by the baseball when I was out in midfield. Okay, passive, it happened to me. And so that's what voice is. So we have the present tense, the indicative mood, and the active voice of luo. That's what she's teaching you here. Now, the way Greek functions is you don't need any personal pronouns. We do have personal pronouns, but you don't need them when you learn a word, because the personal pronoun is in the word based on its ending. Okay, so look at what you have here. You have luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusi. Okay. Again, I'll read those down through. I'm just going down through luo right here. Luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusi. And then that nu, which is at the end, which is an N, it's called a movable nu. And sometimes it's there, sometimes it isn't. So you just have to be aware of that. Okay. It could just be Lucy without it, or Lucien with it. All right. Now, what does this all mean? Well, if you can see that there is a lu in each one of those, lambda, upsilon, all the way down, lambda, upsilon, lambda, upsilon. That's the stem of this verb, of this indicative. I'm sorry, lambda, upsilon, lu is the stem, and then you have, if you could like draw a line down through right where all the lambda upsilons are, you have o, ace, a, amen, ete, usi. O, ace, a, amen, ete, usi. So when you have lu and you have an o, an omega attached to it, that means I loose. I am loosing, or I do lose. Okay, the o is I. When you have ace, lu ace, and she put thou there, but which is kind of really helpful, but it's the you singular. You loose. You loose, you are loosing, you do loose. It's a present active indicative. If you have a, it's he, she, or it looses. Okay? So if that's attached to the end, it's he, she, she, or it. If you have amen attached to it, that's we loose. And then if you have ete attached to it, that's you plural loose. And then if you have usi attached to it, that's they lose. So you have the first person singular, second person singular, third person singular, first person plural, second person plural, third person plural. Luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusi. And you can do that with any verb in the present indicative. Okay. Any questions on that? I should have drew that out for you. All right. All right. So now, just don't worry about the rules of accentuation. You can read them. Don't worry about it. Like in a week or two, I'm going to give you an easier way to do that. Just be aware that there's accents on every word, and that they are actually important in some ways. But don't worry about that. But let's go down to the vocabulary. Okay. So here's your first list of vocabulary, and you can see, and this is what I love about Molly Whitaker. The vocabulary she's going to give you and the way she has developed this book is it's some of the most common words in the Greek New Testament. By the time you're done through halfway of this book, you're going to know most words in the New Testament that appear like 60 times or more. Like she does an amazing job with this grammar. So here we go. I'm going to pronounce them and so that you can hear them. All right. So we have akuo, which means I hear, and acoustics. There it is, akuo. All right, I hear. Now akues, you hear. Akue, he, she, or it hears. Akuamen, we hear. Akuete, you plural hear. Akusi, they hear. Okay. Blepo, I see. Blepo, ace, you see. Blepe, he, she, or it sees. Blepamen, we see. Grapho, I write. That's easy, isn't it? Graphite, graphics. Grapho, I write. Estheo, estheo. Now you have an iota in there that makes it a little bit hard to pronounce sometimes, but it's estheo. Now that helps me to explain that when you say Greek words, it's basically a syllable at a time based on where the vowel is. So it's S-T-O in that, okay? Graph O. So I got the alpha and then the omega. So estheo is to eat, I eat. Estheas, you eat. Estheomen, we eat. Estheusi, they eat. Heurisco, I find. Heurisco, I find. There's the rough breathing. Heurisco, I find. Heuriscase, you find. Okay. Heuriscete, they, you plural find. Heurisco. Eureka, you've probably heard the word eureka. I found something. Eureka, that's where that comes from. Therapeuo, that's easy. I heal. Therapeuo, I heal. Keruso, keruso, I preach, I proclaim. Keruso. Lambano, I take or receive. You can see that's a very common word. Lambano, I take or receive. Lego, I say. Leges, you say. Lege, he said. He, she, or it says. Okay. Pempo, I send. Pempo, I send. Pistuo, I believe or I trust. Pistuo, I believe or I trust. Pistuamen, we believe. And then sozo, remember the zeta is a DZ. Sozo, I save. Salvation, sozo. Okay? Any thoughts or questions? All right. Turn the page then. And she's going to give you, what she does then is she gives you two exercises. One is to translate into English and the other is to translate into Greek. Now, I never did the translation into Greek, okay? I always did the translation into English because I'm not learning to speak Greek. I'm not learning to do that. That would probably be a good exercise to do, but what I'm going to encourage you to do is, now there's a second book that comes along with this, and this one is all weather stained and everything. But anyway, it's the exercise book. Now some of you may have it, some of you may not. It doesn't matter, because I've asked Brady, and she is going to actually scan this entire book, and she's going to make it available to you. But you're going to find that in the first chapter, she has this thing called NB. All right. And NB means nota bene. It's Latin for this is super important. I don't even know what it actually means, but it's like this is super important. So she'll have a little bit of nota bene there, but then she's going to give you the answers to both of them. The answers are going to be, these ones are going to be in English, because you're supposed to translate from from Greek to English. The second ones are in Greek. What I did, because I just wanted to learn how to translate out of the Greek, is I would go to the answer key and just do it backwards. I would take these Greek words and translate them, and the answer then was in my book. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So look at the first exercise. Oh, by the way, with this book, the other thing this is helpful is you can correct yourself. You can correct yourself. Do it, and then open this up, and all the answers are here. Okay. Blepusi. Blepusi. So she gives you that book, and what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to write blepusi, and then you're supposed to translate it. So blepo means to see. Usi is the third person plural. And so blepusi is they see. That's the answer, right? They see. All right. Pempo is to send. Pempo is to send. What's pempete? You can cheat and turn the page and look at what the eta stands for. Anybody know what's blepete? Blepo is to send. I send. What, Chase?
You all send.
Huh?
You all send.
Yes, you plural send. Or as Lauren said it in, what, you said it in Southernese, right, Lauren? Y'all send? Yeah, you can do Pittsburghese. You can say yun sent. Yeah, yun send. You didn't send out for pizza. But yes, it's you plural. So if you're from Pittsburgh or the South, you at least have the first person plural. So you see, the eta is the ending. The ending is important. And quite frankly, that's all you need in a Greek sentence. Blepete, you send. All right. And so go down through this as Theo, Sodze, pronounce them, try to translate them, write down your translations, and then check yourself. And Brady should have this. If you don't have a copy of this, these are kind of hard to get a hold of, and some of them are super expensive used. But anyway, if you can find one, fine. But Brady is going to, I gave her another copy, and she's going to have this all available online for you. But anyway, give it a try. All right? All right. I have one more thing to do. And what I'd like to do is I'm going to try to bring up my screen. And that is, I wanted to give you a few tips on how to write Greek, because I would really encourage you to write these things out. Like, you're clearly going to write them out on your card to get started to learn how to write Greek. And I will tell you that there are YouTube videos on how to write Koine Greek. And this is Koine Greek. This is not modern Greek. Modern Greek has so changed. Think of the old King James English, and then think of English today. This is Koine Greek. Now, it's the common Greek of the day back then, but the letters and the pronunciations are going to be different than modern Greek. But you can just Google how to write Koine Greek, and some people are going to come up. I haven't found one that was completely, I was comfortable with, was completely accurate, but they were mostly accurate. There's this one Asian dude who is a calligrapher, and he had a really nice one. He just didn't know Greek very well, but it was beautiful the way he did it. But basically, what you do with Greek is you, hold on, let me see. All right. Do you see my whiteboard?
Yes.
Okay. What you do with, so let me just kind of, I'm not going to do the, I, I, I'm doing this with my mouse keypad. So I'm, I'm kind of not able to, see, that didn't even give me my line. I need a line here. It's not giving me a line. Oh, let me try this. Here we go. All right. No, now I got my pen up. See, I can't even make a straight line. But anyway, what you do when you're writing these letters is you try to, Greek letters are written without picking up your pen, basically, is what they do. And so, um, when you see an alpha, say for instance, and so see how I did that? You just come down and you make an alpha, all right? And it doesn't have to be pretty. It's all you have to read it. You're not doing a Greek manuscript, but you'll get better at it. But generally, this is how you do an alpha. And then beta starts at the bottom, below the line, okay? And you're going to see that beta is below, it's usually below the line, alpha, beta. Gamma also goes below the line. That's your gamma, alpha, beta, gamma. Delta, you start at the top, and there's your delta. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Now you will find that there's actually things online that will actually just show you arrows. Like they'll actually show you an arrow, like they'll show you how you're supposed to start from there and then go down like this and stuff like that, okay? So that's alpha, beta, gamma, delta. That's my straight line. Epsilon, you do lift up. Epsilon. Oh, get a little off there. Zeta. Zeta comes below the line. Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, zeta. Zeta. All right. Eta also goes below the line. It actually, well, that's a little much. Eta goes below the line. And it's the A sound, eta. Theta, you know. You've seen theta, probably. You know theta. Everybody knows theta. Iota is simple. Kappa is, oh, by the way, theta does look bigger, okay? Kappa shouldn't go below the line. I accidentally went below the line. Kappa, simple, okay? Lambda is something that you don't see every day, but that's lambda. And it's a larger thing, okay? We'll keep going. Mu is the M sound, and it starts below the line. Mu. Okay? Nu is an N sound, but it's a V. You just gotta remember, you just gotta memorize that. That's nu. Mu, nu. Kasi is the hardest one to write. It's more of a larger one, okay? And it kind of goes something, it's just kind of weird, okay? But it's like an E and then it hooks underneath the line, okay? And so I write them very ugly when I'm doing exegesis and I'm doing this, but I know what I'm writing, okay? But if you see it there, it'll have this little tail, and then it's like a big E, and then it goes below the line. That's C, all right? Omicron simple. Omicron is simple. Pi is simple. You know pi. Everybody knows pi. Rho. Let me give another line up here. Ooh, that was better. Okay, rho is the rho. You start below the line. Rho is the R sound. Okay, rho. There's two sigmas. This one's in the line. K Russo will have the sigma. You'll see it in the line. And then this is the sigma at the end of the line. Okay, sigma. Tau is easy. It's just a little t. Looks like capital T, but it's a little. It's short. Upsilon is U. That's easy enough. Phi, Chi, Psi. They're just downright fun. Chi actually goes big, but it tends to drop below the line. Psi is kind of wild. And then omega is just like a W, but it's O. Okay. So those are the letters. Please try to get used to writing them, practice them, because you will find that because unless you want to type Greek, unless you want to type Greek, you're better off. Hold on a second. Unless you want to type, how do I get out of here? Trevor taught me how to do this. There we go. Unless you want to, if you have a MacBook, you can type Greek, but other than that, learn to write it, because you're gonna want to do all kinds of exegesis stuff with it, and you're gonna want to tear a passage apart, and you're gonna want to be able to write, and you're gonna want to be able to use it in that way. Okay. So, for instance, this is me preparing for Sunday. And I'm writing Greek in there, and I'm using different colors and all kinds of arrows and everything like that. And so practice writing. And so you may want to even every once in a while, when you're doing your exercises, write them out. I'd encourage you to write them out. Not every time, but write them out so that you know them. See how you do. Test yourself. Okay? So there you go. Class 1. We'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll send out an email. We'll send out the thing. Any questions or any thoughts, anything?
Pastor, what do you want us to do? So you want us to fill out that whole chapter, all the exercises, that's what you want, plus that.
Chapter 1, yeah.
Okay.
Because mostly what you're going to be doing mostly what you're going to be doing now is memorizing.
Okay.
Memorize the Greek alphabet, memorize the diphthongs, memorize your new vocabulary so that you know blepo, sozo, eucharista, memorize those, and then try to do the exercises. And then what we'll do is we'll come back then in 2 weeks. I'll go over the exercises, have any questions that you have, and then we'll go to chapter 2, the second declension. Okay. And you can see that what she's going to do, and this is what I love about this thing. I actually looked at I was going through probably one of the most popular books right now. I was going through this one because this was the other one I was thinking about using. I think he begins with nouns. He doesn't get the verbs until page 176. And I'm like, dude, these people want to start translating. She gives you verbs in chapter 1 and then some nouns in chapter 2, so that you're actually by the end, the exercises in chapter 2, if you look on page 14, you're doing whole sentences, and she's doing this right away. And so I really like that about her. And these nouns and verbs are the ones you're going to be seeing all the time in the New Testament. Okay. So it's going to come fast. And I'm trying to keep notes of places in the New Testament that you can see these things so that you can look them up as well. All right. Yeah. So do the learn the alphabet, learn the diphthongs, do the vocabulary, and try to translate. That should keep you busy for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'll say.
I know, Pete. I know. Our brains aren't the way they used to be, but you'll get to it. Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Okay,
Any
thank
questions
you.
or anything,
Thank
just
you.
email me. Anything, email, and Brady will be staying in touch, okay?
All righty.
Good.
All right. You take care.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.